Hi, I'm Raf de Kempe here with SVP of Identity Chris Briggs for Mitek at Money 2020 in Vegas. Please introduce yourself.
Thanks. My name is Chris Briggs, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Identity from Mitek.
So we spoke on the show last year here at Money 2020. Tell me what has changed for Mitek.
Well, there's a lot that's changed in the market overall, and with Mitek as well. So overall in the marketplace, what we've seen is this really strong push towards generative AI and AI being a public topic, but also something that our clients worry about every single day. It comes in the form of deep fakes and people trying to fraudulently position themselves, open new accounts, and or authenticate themselves in new and different types of ways. But we've also seen with that an advent of changes in regulation and different ways that consumers are using this technology, namely the ability to be able to use their identity in different types of transactions. So definitely lots going on, and Mitek as an organization has really spent a lot of time not only understanding the market, but also spending time with our customers, really identifying what those key issues are around problems with AI and who are the fraudsters and who's trying to impersonate whom in the marketplace and what can we do with them to help their consumers have a better experience overall.
Tell me in like a short sentence, what is Mitek? What does Mitek do?
So Mitek as an organization, I like to say, is one that bridges the divide between physical and digital identity. We started as an organization that focused a lot on documentation, the ability to be able to verify documentation from an individual as part of a transaction, say opening a new bank account and or sending a wire through or something like that, typically with financial institutions. Since that time, we have evolved into one that has really been focused around not just that physical identity, but how you manifest it yourself from a digital perspective and what that actually means to these big financial institutions.
Here at the show and around the world, AI has been a very hot topic. Can you tell me how has it been changing the technology landscape?
Yeah, it's a hot topic for all of us, right? And it's a hot topic surely at Money 2020 this year, largely because it's really gained a lot of notoriety within the public's eye. So everybody's really thinking about, okay, what does AI mean? And what does it mean to my organization? In our space, from a Mitek perspective, what we really think about is how does it change the landscape for how consumers use our technology? How does it allow a fraudster or somebody that's actually trying to perpetrate some type of fraud with the ability to be able to create a deep fake? We've all seen the Pope and the puffer jacket. You've all seen different physical manifestations of this, and it's our job to really figure out at the end of the day how we are going to best manage how that digital representation is still true and help our customers better understand how that's true. It's becoming cheaper, it's becoming easier, the technology is more accessible for many of our customers, which means that it makes our job even tougher on a day-to-day basis keeping up with them.
Sure. Do you think people are becoming more vulnerable because of these technological advances?
Yes. In short, people are becoming more vulnerable, not just because there are people that are impersonating one another in the marketplace, but it's widely known that data is available in many forms in many places for many people around the world. So it's easier to create a persona or a specific identity document than it ever has been before. The flip side to that is that with AI and generative AI, machine learning, and the types of techniques that Mitek uses, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. It also enables us as an organization to be able to detect those frauds faster and easier in the marketplace. What's happening is that the velocity in the market is changing even more quickly than it has happened in the past. Customers are aware of it and they're scared. They're fearful. They want to feel as though the organization with whom they're working they can trust, that provides them with safety, and often this idea of protection so that I know who I am, and then in fact I know that you know who I am.
So would you say there's also a way of using AI and voice and face for good then?
Absolutely. So what we have found is it can be used for good to be able to not just detect and prevent fraud, but also enable interaction with a device, with a process in more accessibility than what we've seen in previous years. It allows someone who perhaps may have some type of issue accessing via voice to use a face, but even more vice versa. Someone who needs to have an alternate method of verification or authentication can use a voice instead of yet necessarily matching a face to a passport or to a driver's license, for example.
Do you think biometrics will play a bigger role and have a positive impact on getting access to services such as banking?
There's one of the big changes in our marketplace right now are both changes or modifications to regulations around how governments are viewing biometrics and how this is really advancing in many places in the world, both in terms of the US market, but even more than that, you're seeing that in Europe, you're seeing it in Southeast Asia, Latin America as well. Those biometrics are becoming more and more accepted as a uniform and very efficient method by which someone can be authenticated in a transaction in a very accessible, safe, easy to use way.
So do you think it's democratizing access to banking? Is it helping people who are underbanked to get access to services?
So often what we find, and there are numerous examples of this, is that in fact biometric is something that you carry with you no matter what else you have from a documentation perspective. Your identity exists whether you actually have a document or not. So it allows you to be able to persist this idea of identity from one transaction to the next and help people that are underbanked that may not have the proper type of documentation and or need to be able to enter in and become a newcomer into the credit space or into the financial service space by allowing them to be able to create an identity and then be able to authenticate that identity over time. And we're seeing that being used more and more across the globe as a way to be able to not just help people that are walking down the street cashing a check or actually making a deposit or a wire transfer, but people that are crossing international boundaries and actually need help in identifying themselves and getting services when they don't necessarily have the right type of a resident permit or the right type of documentation when they go across the border. Could be on the back of diaspora, or it could be on the back of the fact that just people are moving around a lot.
In a world that's becoming more digitized and more digital, what's next for safety, security, and accessibility?
Yeah, that's a good question, because what we find in the space is that it is moving quite rapidly and there are a lot of changes. So what we're finding is that a lot of the idea around using your device as the single method of being able to authenticate yourself isn't as effective as it used to be. If you have a phone and you have a picture on that phone and you're using it to basically unlock the phone, that's not good enough. So most organizations are relying on advancements in the use of biometrics, and even going so far to say, we're going to use multimodal biometrics. In other words, not just one type of biometric, but really taking and matching two or more together with maybe a government ID or another verification point to create what we call a biometrically bound identity that allows you to then be able to use it over time in a repeated way. That will continue. With that, what we will also see is an advent of even more regulations. In the US, you'll see it on a state-by-state basis. In Europe, you're seeing it with the advent of new and different types of regulations around biometrics more holistically. And then, of course, all the privacy that has to be put around this and the consent to be able to use biometrics in the space. And then I think last, what we're really going to see is the emergence more and more of this idea of a natural, basically independently created digital identity. A digital identity that is not based on a document, but one is based on certain attributes of your personality and or where you're from, basically being used as a way to be able to digitize identity beyond just the services that are embedded in a passport that says that you might get certain types of services from a government. It will be beyond that, and it will basically play on the technical edge of the environment and allow more accessibility and more consumers to be able to use it in more places in more ways. That's a bit of the head of the wave, and we're going to see that emerge over time. We're probably a few years out from documents going away altogether. At least I hope not. Yeah, exactly. But we are seeing it all advance in that direction. We're absolutely moving in the direction where we're seeing the idea of a digital identity, biometrics substantiating that, and true accessibility being moving beyond the technology that we have and being substantiated by the fact that I am who I say that I am, regardless of what a particular document says, and that I can prove that against fraudulent activity from those deep fakes, from those pictures that are manufactured in the space.
We're here at Money 2020 in Las Vegas. How's the show been for you? How's the conference?
Been great. It's always great. It's always full of energy. There's a lot of people here this year. I think that there are a lot of really interesting advancements in our space, but even more broadly, with different types of technologies. And so we get the opportunity to talk to a lot of the different players and get a better understanding of where the market is going. Also spend some time with the regulators and some of the other people that are really going to influence where our space is going over the next few years. So it's a great time for us to be here and have those types of conversations.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's been fantastic.
It was great talking to you. Thanks, Chris.
You as well.